Hi everyone, my name is Aayush. You guys can hear me okay, right? Good. My name is Aayush, and as much as I would like it, actually, unfortunately, I'm not the Google Assistant the video just asked you to meet. However, I am here to talk about it, and I'm going to show you who this assistant actually is. The goal of my talk is to try and, thanks. The goal of my talk is to try and unpack this 90-second video that you just saw. I'm going to explain to you why we built the assistant and how we built it. So you guys can hear me okay or not really? You want me to speak louder? Okay, I'm going to speak up a little louder. All right, so as I said, the goal of my talk is to try and unpack this 90-second video that you just saw. And I'm going to explain to you why we built the assistant and how we built it. That is, what core technologies came together in building this Google Assistant. And I'm going to do this by showing you some live demos of what works and how it works. And while showing you these demos, I'm going to explain to you the technologies that came into play and how each of these queries worked. I think you already got a good sense of what the assistant is from the video. And hopefully, the demo lords would be with me today while I'm showing you these live demos. So let's see. So we hear this a lot. The world is changing, or rather, it has changed. The world has become increasingly more mobile. The hallmark moment was last year, in 2015, when the number of Google searches on mobile actually exceeded that from desktop. And this difference is only increasing now. So it's important to consider that any future that we build for should be built on mobile. One aspect of this mobile world is that people end up using speech a lot more. Why, you may ask? Well, for one, on some devices, it's the only form of input. And even on your smartphone, it's actually a lot easier to talk than it is to type. Typing is a bit tedious. The second reason is that speech recognition is actually beginning to work now. The word error rate, which is what we use to estimate or calculate the accuracy of the speech recognizer, so that is how many words or what percentage of words the recognizer gets wrong. So the word error rate today is actually less than 8% on average. And this is actually just an average. So in a quiet atmosphere like this, it should work a lot better. As a result of people actually using speech, people end up using natural language queries a lot more. So instead of, rather than keyword queries, so instead of saying something like weather Nicosia, they're more likely to say, hey, Google, is it going to be raining tomorrow? Or hey, Google, good morning, what's the weather tomorrow? No one types that way, but people do speak that way. So in this mobile world, we not only need to have good speech recognition, but we also need to have a very good natural language understanding. Oops. It's probably just easier to use this. Another artifact, if I may call it that, of the mobile world is that people use both web and applications. And amongst applications, people use the chat applications the most. They spend a lot of time on chat applications. So that's also important to take into consideration for any future that we are building. So then, what is this future? What is the ultimate assistant? Well, we think that the ultimate assistant should understand the world. So it can answer questions like what the capital of Cyprus is or how the weather is. It should understand you. I mean, it is your assistant after all. So it should understand you and your world. And I think you already saw some examples of this in the video. And it should know what you're currently doing and help you based on your current context. The assistant should also be there whenever you need it, wherever you are. And most importantly, it should never come in your way. It should help you get things done. It should help you save time. So I now want to show you demos of the assistant on two of the surfaces that we've already launched. One is the Allo messaging app, and the second is on the new phone, the Google Pixel phone. And I'm going to show you what core technologies came together in building the assistant. So let me just make sure this phone is reflecting. I'm going to first show you the demos on the Google Pixel phone. So let me just set this up for you guys. Here's the settings. All right, great. Fortunately, I have no password. So I'm going to show you the core technologies that came together in building this assistant. I spoke about speech, and obviously speech recognition is one of the core technologies of the assistant. I'm going to show you an example of how speech recognition works in noisy environments. And for this, I actually need all of your help. Okay, so I need you guys to make as much noise as possible right now. And I'm going to ask a question about the Euro Cup. Okay, and let's hope it understands me. Okay, I'm going to probably turn off the microphone so that I don't have an unfair advantage. And yeah, please make as much noise as possible. Like shout as loud as you can.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's speech recognition. Oops, I'm going to turn this back on. I got this. So that's speech recognition, and I think it works quite well. Anyhow, let's continue the conversation. What about 2012?
UEFA Euro 2012 was won by the Spain national football team.
So there are two interesting things that happened here. One is that this is an example of contextual understanding. Actually, I want to show you one more example of contextual understanding. Show me the team roster.
The roster for Spain national football team includes Sergio Ramos, Gerard Piqué, and others.
So in both of these queries, I did not have to repeat certain words. Like in the first case, I didn't have to repeat the Euro Cup, and in the second case, the Spanish football team. Thanks to the contextual understanding technology that we've built at Google, these queries were correctly interpreted, understood, and answered by the assistant. And we think that, and this is one of the technologies that we've built into the assistant, contextual understanding, which we think is actually very important. So I mentioned that there were two interesting things that happen out here. The second is this urge or enthusiasm of the assistant to try and answer every question. And that really is a goal. Every question must be answered. Every question must have an answer. A few years ago, we could answer simple questions like, what is the weather, or how old is Barack Obama? But now we can answer a wider range of questions and long-tail questions. And this is mainly thanks to the developments that we made in understanding the web and web documents. So now we not only return to you the top web document that answers your query, but we also point you to the exact place in the document that answers precisely the question that you asked. Let me actually show you one more example of this. What is the speed limit in Cyprus?
According to Cyprus Travel Secrets, the speed limits are as follows. Maximum of 100 kilometers per hour on motorways with a minimum of 60 kilometers per hour. In reality, police will usually only stop you if you exceed 120 kilometers per hour. Beware of it. Speed equals 80 kilometers per hour unless otherwise indicated.
So that's answers, and that's another vital component to the assistant. Now, I mentioned the ultimate assistant should understand the world and should understand your context. I want to show you a few more examples in which the assistant actually uses your context to try and help you get things done. So this is actually my first time in Cyprus, and I've actually had a really good time. It's been amazing. I have some free time after the conference, and I was looking for things to do on the TripAdvisor app. And the Cyprus Museum came up as one of the top attractions. And indeed, it seems to have some pretty good reviews. But I want to know more about this place. Show me this place on Wikipedia. So that's interesting. Using just my voice, I was able to go from the TripAdvisor app to the Wikipedia app, and I didn't have to even name this place, in this case, Cyprus Museum again. Think about the amount of time that this saved you. Typically, the process would have been for you to copy paste some text, go back, home button, find the Wikipedia app, maybe do a search, and then actually go to the article. Here, in 2 seconds, I was there. So at this point, I can continue asking questions to the assistant based on what I'm reading or seeing on the screen. But I want to show you another thing. This is what we call screen search. The assistant now understands what are the most important concepts or entities on the screen and presents to you a set of actions that you're most likely to perform based on that. So in this case, I can actually go directly to the website for Cyprus Museum, or I can call them, and a bunch of other actions. Now, I mentioned earlier that people in the mobile world use apps. And this is a very good example of the assistant actually expanding its knowledge beyond the web and web documents now into the app world. So if I want to navigate there, I can simply tap on this. And with a sum total of 2 taps, I was able to go from reading something on Wikipedia to actually navigating to this place. I think that's pretty cool. So this was the first part of my demo. I now want to show you the assistant on the other surface where we launched, which is the new messaging app, Allo. I mentioned that chat apps are the most widely used apps, and people spend a lot of time messaging and texting each other. I'm here having a conversation with my friend Maria. And typically, like when you have an information need on chat, you would again go back, search for something, copy some text, and paste it back into the chat. I want to show you how the assistant can actually help you now within the context of a chat. There are 2 ways, actually, in which you can invoke the assistant on Allo, within a chat, that is. One is explicitly. That is, you explicitly ask a question to the assistant. And the other is proactively. That is, the assistant, based on your current conversation, decides that it may be able to offer some help and offers to do so. So let me show you an example of the first one, the explicit part. So all I have to do is type in @Google, followed by my query. So this query actually goes directly to the assistant. And you can see that the assistant actually responds in the chat. This is actually the first time that both me and my friend can search for things within a chat conversation. And both me and Maria see the answer to this. So at this point, I can continue the conversation. So she says, you want to do something tonight? I'm going to show you the second part of the assistant now, which is the proactive part. And I'm going to use a bit of a natural language response to this to show you the capabilities of the natural language understanding that the assistant actually has today. So maybe like, sounds good. Oops. It's tough to type when it's connected to so many devices. So at this point, once again, I guess the assistant did not think it was a good point to actually proactively offer some help. But I can potentially ask the assistant again explicitly for restaurants in Nicosia. And it would give me a bunch of restaurants in Nicosia, which both me and Maria can browse. And then we can research together, and we can tap on one of them that we like. And once again, the assistant gives me a set of actions that I'm most likely to perform. In this case, calling or navigating the restaurant. And within the chat, while chatting with my friend Maria, I was able to go from within the chat application, I can navigate directly to the place. I mean, I think that's pretty cool. Think of how much time this has saved you. I think the new messaging app actually makes searching, planning things together, organizing things together a lot easier, faster, and actually, a little more interactive and fun, which is pretty cool. Since I still have a few more moments, I want to show you the assistant in yet another incarnation. Yeah, this is as a separate chat contact on Allo again. So you can have a direct conversation with the assistant. It's important to realize that all the assistants I've shown you so far, they're basically the same assistant, just wearing different masks. So I can ask this assistant the same questions that I've asked, and vice versa. So I can say, Mario, stop messaging me. And so it finds dogs, pictures of my pet dog, Kyra. She's cute, isn't she? I can also ask the assistant questions like, and it answers the question for me. I want to end by showing you one last aspect of the assistant, and this is the fun aspect. So we realized that you probably would not want to be friends with someone who was boring and mundane and a bit dry, and so we built a personality into the assistant. And this personality basically reflects the values and the spirit of Google. So in building the personality, we wanted the assistant to be helpful, that's most important, humble, but also a bit playful, quirky, and fun. So at this point, you can actually potentially play games with the assistant. So I was having a conversation with it before. It tells me a list of things I can do. I can play games with the assistant, or I can get to know the assistant better. And in this case, it gives me a bunch of options. So I can ask it where it lives. It says it lives in the cloud. I can also ask it to tell me a joke. Why is it okay for an ice company to commit fraud? Maria, stop messaging me. Okay, I don't think that's too funny. All right. I think the assistant has been pretty awesome to us today, so I'm going to thank it finally. This is just a start. We just launched the assistant. We still have a lot more features planned and a lot more improvements to make, but I wanted to give you a gist of what we are building and how we built it. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Aayush. That's brilliant. So, any questions? Yes, Nadi.
Hi, thank you for the insights on the assistant. I was just wondering, how is it different to a chatbot?
So this is an AI bot in some sense, right? And you can ask it questions. It's not very different from a chatbot in that way. It is an AI bot that we've built into the assistant. But again, I mentioned to you that the assistant is, the goal of the assistant is to be present everywhere, wherever you need it, whenever you need it. And so here you saw that in these examples, the assistant was present in the chat that I was having with a friend, and of course I could chat with it separately as well. But yeah, for all practical purposes, it's the goal of the assistant is to help you get things done, help you save time, and just get things done for you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Any other questions? Yes, Maria.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for the talk. What are the biggest challenges you guys have building Allo and Google Assistant from the technical side of you?
So I think pretty much all the components I showed you, they work very well today, but they're not perfect. So pretty much every component that I showed you, it's not perfect, right? They work very well, but they're not perfect. So we're still improving upon the speech recognition. We're still improving upon just the basic natural language understanding, which is still an unsolved problem. We still want to show you more and more answers to questions that you have. So I think these are challenges, these are open problems that we've been working on for a long time, and that we'll continue working on and continue improving as the assistant becomes better.
Yes?
Hello.
Hey.
Just a quick question. Google products in general don't have big support for Cyprus. They are very limited here. What about Google Assistant? What languages are you willing to support? Are you willing to support Greek?
Yeah, I think this is an ongoing effort. I can't comment on the exact timelines, but it's something that we have been thinking about. We launched, for instance, in German about a month ago, and we are now expanding the reach of the assistant to other languages.
Hey, so expanding on that question, I always had a problem, and I'm not using very much the chatbots, like talking to a bot, because it's very hard for me to, for example, if you're searching for a movie with a different, like a title in English, like La Vita Bella, it doesn't pick up on it, you know, for different languages, even though it's English, but you're searching for, let's say, an Italian thing or a Spanish thing. How do you deal with that?
So actually, that depends, that's improving a lot as well. As I said, speech recognition is not perfect, and especially for some foreign words, it's even more difficult. But we are making lots of improvements on that. So one thing that we use more and more for speech recognition even, I think that's what your question is about, is using your context and using the context of surrounding words. And this is how the human brain also works. So especially, I think for restaurants, this works really well now. Some restaurant names are very difficult to pronounce, especially in English. And so I think you should give it a try. Like if you try some restaurant and try speaking to it, it would work pretty well. And we are expanding this technology, the notion of using your context for speech recognition to other verticals as well, like movies and everything.
Cheers.
Hi, Aayush, thank you for your speech. My question is that do web developers or mobile developers need any extra effort for optimization for this to work seamlessly?
No, this should just work like it does, yeah.
Thank you.
No, not that I know of, at least, yeah.
We have another question here.
Hi, and thank you.
Hey.
I would like to ask you about the radical innovations, and if you have any opinion about that. I was reading lately that Google is planning about having solar plane drones, which will allow us to have a 5G internet, which will allow us to transmit gigabytes in seconds. You have any opinion, any thoughts about if it's actually going to happen in the next decade or something about the solar planes? I know Facebook tried something, but we didn't see that coming yet.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't have much insight into how the team is working on and what they're developing. I'm sure they're doing good work and trying to launch as soon as possible, but I don't have any insights on timelines or anything.
Well, any other questions? Yeah, Nadi.
Sorry for the silliness of the question, but when we say the assistant learns from you and learns with you, etc., does Google have somewhere like a digital profile for each person about what they like and what they dislike? Because that's a trend now. Like everyone's selling data in between themselves, and they know what I like based on my searches and based on my, based on what I look at online. So they like offer to me similar things, etc. Does the same thing happen with the assistant? Is there a digital profile somewhere? How does it work?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is basically that, and that's needed to answer questions. I showed you a couple of examples where I asked for to see pictures of my dog and my flight details, and this all comes from my personal data, my personal profile that I've shared with Google. and wanted it to be surfaced on these platforms. So, I mean, yes, there is a profile, and it's kept extremely securely, so only you can access the data. And yeah, I don't know if you're looking for any other information, but it's stored like yeah, it's stored as a profile, and there are different attributes to your personal profile, and photographs, your calendar, events are examples of these attributes in your profile.
Hey, are you what with difficult questions that maybe don't have a straight answer? Like, for example, I'm thinking like the movie, was it AI, I think, where they had like an assistant there, and it kind of crashes when it doesn't know an answer to something like more philosophical or something difficult. Do you have any directions, from your team on how to deal with such scenarios? Or also like how not to bias the results based on like the people that are programming the assistant. For example, let's say we had the elections in the United States, and we could ask like, who is the best president? How do you answer? Who will be the best candidate? It's like a very difficult question. How do you deal with such scenarios?
Yeah, so I think at this point we are dealing with answering factual questions, right? Things that do have an answer. And for everything else, we just show you the web results and the most prominent web results. So we would not try and ask for opinions because I don't think Google should get into that either, personally. Yeah.
I think we had another question at the back. Yep.
I just have a question with respect to the data that is available to the users when they use the assistant. Is Google just using what is commonly available on the internet, or is it building additional databases and data that it thinks that is useful for this specific application and its users?
Sorry, I couldn't quite understand your question. Could you maybe speak a bit louder and repeat it, or did you understand?
The question is, the data provided by the assistant is the data that is commonly available and is being searched from Google, or is it like also building additional databases and other data that can be seen as useful or important to users of this application?
Yeah, it's actually all from search. It's the same data that's available to Google Search, and it is basically built on top of Google Search. The assistant is an extension of Google Search. And again, it's the same web documents that are publicly available, as well as your own personal data that you've explicitly shared with Google that is used to answer the questions. Yeah.
That's great. One last question.
Hello. Will this digital profile that will be created by Assistant be used for Google advertisements, such as AdSense?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm sure that whatever Google does is done to help the user and help save time, and so that's the ultimate goal.
So thank you very much, Aayush.
Yeah, thank you.
I really wanted to hire an assistant, so you gave me the solution. Thank you.